Hi, this is Matt Bradley-Tschirgi, and we're taking a look at my reactions to Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster screenshots that just dropped in a recent issue of Famitsu. Famitsu is a long-running Japanese video game magazine whose layout with multiple reviewers per game was a direct inspiration for EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, a magazine that was huge at the time. You can follow me on Twitter at MATWBT, can't speak this morning. And we're going to play clips of this video. I'll have the link to the full YouTube. If you can read or translate Japanese and stuff, that'd be useful. My Japanese is really poor unless like I'm reading a menu or at a grocery store or something. But nevertheless, there's things to be had here. So let's go, and I will pause and give commentary along the way. Again, please like and follow and subscribe and all those fun things. I would appreciate it. And this will also be up on my YouTube, youtube.com/sequelcast. So let's go. As we can see here, this is the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster themed issue of Famitsu. It has a wonderful cover showing the redone pixel artwork. And Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster is the last one to come out. It's not out yet. By this point, as of this recording, December 19th, 2021, I don't think it's going to come out by 2021 because it usually has a 10 or 14-day lead time before the end of the year. I could be surprised, but I really don't think that will happen. Instead, I think we'll get it in January 2022, as a lot of people have been guessing. I was really hoping beyond hope it'd come out this year. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. So anyway, this cover is a cool thing there, and you can look in the middle. You see stuff like Setzer and all this stuff. So let's go through and look at the screenshots they feature from the game and talk about some of the differences.
はい、ドン出ましたけれども、こちらですね。この渋谷和子さんの描いたキャラクターを並べているんですけど、この実はですね、この表紙の配置も渋谷さんがやってくださっているという。
そうなんですね。なんかこだわりの順番とかなんですかね。
はい、いろいろですね。この下段の一番真ん中のあたりにね、バッツっていうその5の主人公なんですけど、もう踊り子のジョブがこう手を挙げてるのがあったりとか、要所要所でちょっと遊びが入ってて面白いんです。
It's nice on this cover. You get bigger versions. If you look near the top, you get the real big dragon from Final Fantasy V Pixel Remaster, which is the most recent one of the 6 to come out. And you have Bart's on his chocobo Boko. You have the fat chocobo on the far right from Final Fantasy IV. But then it's a good mixture of the ones from the different games, including all the cute outfits from, or a lot of the cute outfits, I should say, from Final Fantasy V Pixel Remaster. It should be noted, as I've noted before, doing all these Pixel Remaster videos, these are not, I mean, I guess you'd say ports. Remasters is the word they use, but they don't have the extra bonus classes or dungeon content or items that the Game Boy Advance versions of these games had. Even that some of the prior Steam versions of these games had, which they pulled. So hopefully you got them when you could, or you can just always go back and get the GBA Final Fantasy 1 through 6 on the different cartridges. Let's keep on watching.
上の方もカインって4のキャラクターですけど、カインがジャンプっていうのを飛んでるんですけど、ファミ通の2のところを飛ばしてたりとか、ね。本当だ。へえ。かなり。1、2、3、4、5、6のキャラも含めて全部いろいろバラバラに入ってるんで。
If you look in the third row up from the bottom, you see Final Fantasy VI sprites of the different characters you can play as, right? So from left to right, it's Gogo, Gao, Edgar, Cyan, I believe, it's been forever since I played it. I believe it's Rosa, Locke, Rydia, Sabin, Realm, Setzer, is it, it's with a S. It's not Strudel, but it's something, Strago, that's it. Then Shadow and Umaro. They don't have Mog up there, although he's down below, along with the ghost kind of character. Looks like the ghost from the Phantom Train in Final Fantasy VI. And you can see the colors, as they are in general with all these Pixel Remaster games, are brightened up a bit. And there'll be even more changes as we look at these screenshots that are coming up here.
頭身がちょっと違ったりとかするんですよね。
あれワンかツーかのキャラクターがやっぱりちょっと頭身がなんか
ワンはそうですね。
ねモデル体型ですよね。
ワンはクラスチェンジするとちょっと頭身が上がるので。
そうだそうだ。そ そうだったそうだった。頭身も。
One of my favorite characters on here is the imp, the kappa that you can be turned into in Final Fantasy VI. That one, if you look at the row where it says the text Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, it's the fourth from the left. And he has a little beak. I had an opportunity in 2006 with some friends to go to Japan for a month. It changed my life. And we went to a town, Tono Valley, that they basically worship this kappa like demon thing and have a museum about him, has T-shirts, have stickers all over at the internet cafe, all kind of stuff. So it was a really kind of a kick getting to see a village reference this mythological creature that was featured in Final Fantasy VI.
変わる頭身もクラスチェンジするんですよね。
かなりいろんなキャラいますので、はい。
私がまだ見たことのないキャラクターもいるので、これからきっと
そうですね。
出てくるんだろうなと思って楽しみですね。
はい。そしてそのファイナルファンタジーピクセルリマスター特集いろいろインタビューとか、鶴瓶さんのインタビューとかですね、音楽の宮永さんのインタビューとかいろいろあるんですけど、これ特殊ブロックで。
So they're mentioning inside there's an interview, but not only is there that, I mean, I would pay money for this poster. This is pretty cool. It's a fold-out poster in the style like Nintendo Power would do, but of that pixel artwork featured on the cover of the magazine. Isn't that cool with the white background?
楽しんだりとか、いろいろ好きな方は。
豪華。
And it has the Pixel Remaster logo with the black and white mage at the bottom and the crystal. It just works really well.
ケフカおるやん。ケフカ目立つなって。
そうですね。ケフカここに。
ケフカピエロのキャラクターですよね。
Oh, they mentioned Kefka is there on the left there. One of his concerned looks as you escape in the castle that can sink underground and travel like a submarine pretty early in the game. Final Fantasy VI was the second Final Fantasy game I owned. The first was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest because it was cheap.
なんとですね、今回コント発売ということで画面のスクリーンショットですね。
So now they're going to talk about screenshots, which is the point of this video. So, but I thought you'd like the poster and the magazine cover. So, right. So let me pause and do this. Okay, right. So this is a bit from the these pictures in Famitsu. I bet you will be the same pictures we'll see posted on Steam for Final Fantasy VI when it becomes available for pre-order at the individual price instead of you having to get the bundle. That usually is an indication it's like 10 or between 10 to 14 days to go. Days, not business days, so just days of the week to go until the actual game comes out. So I bet you they'll be the same pictures of these. I could be wrong, but they look pretty similar to the kind of pictures you would see. Anyhow, this is from the beginning of Final Fantasy VI, and we have the mechas there, one of whom is piloted by Terra, the main character, and she is kind of zombied out, super strong, and she's being escorted by Vix and Wedge, or Biggs and Wedge, depending on the version that you're playing, whatever they do with the translation. Notice the kind of snow foreground effects. You're trying to simulate the Mode 7 thing with the mechs marching, and in the background they brightened it up a bit so you can see the lights of the village of Narsh in the background. That was in the original, but pretty hard to see because of the low resolution of standard TVs and just how they did the colors, so that they amped that up so you can kind of see the twinkling lights in the background. I think is a really nice touch. If you listen to the background and really turn up the volume a lot, right, you can hear the new arranged version of the theme, of Terra's theme, from this version, from this section of the game. So you might want to do that, although they talk so much it's hard to hear.
ファンタジー6はそんな人にはすごく印象深いシーン、オープニングのシーンなんですけど、それがさらに綺麗になっているという感じですね。
すごいなんか機械、なんかロボットみたいなのが3体いますね。はい、
窓はまあ。
Among other reasons, this scene is noticeable in the game because it's just them marching through the snow. It's a looping animation, very pretty. The music's somber, and the credits go on for what feels like felt like over 10 minutes as a kid. I don't know if it's really that long, but it feels really like a movie opening credits, or as close as you could on the Super Nintendo at any rate at that time. Final Fantasy V and 4 did this a little bit, but not to this degree. This is, near the end of the lifespan of the Super Nintendo, and it was just a really show-off moment to see kind of what you could do thinking outside the box.
それに乗っているところで、ちなみに今かかっている曲、これティナのテーマなんですけど、これもピクセルリマスター版でアレンジをされている楽曲になっています。
そうなんですね。
はい。 いてみますか。
なんか FF の中で時代
This is another scene. I think it's actually before that opening credit scene, or maybe if not right after, where you're Terra, although in I think the original Japanese version it was Tina, as they were talking about. I could make that out sort of. And there's her two compatriots, fellow soldiers, blah, Vix and Wedge, talking there, and they're talking about, it's been 1,000 years since magic has been seen, because Tira is a magic user that makes her unique and dangerous, and she's part of the evil empire. Yes, it's literally called the Empire, like in Star Wars, but I mean, what else would you call it? Historically, there's the Roman Empire, the Russian Empire, all kinds of empires used historically. It's not just a Star Wars reference. Although Biggs and Wedge are for these two characters. And as I noted in the prior screenshot here, they brighten stuff up so you can see more of the village in the background. And that looks like new artwork to me, more than what you could see in the Super Nintendo version. So that's a neat touch, and you can kind of make out more of the horizon, make out more of the details.
が時代が進んでる感じがして、ちょっと3の人間からするとなんかすごい未来を感じます。こんな機械なんてなかったじゃない。
これ FF6 っていうスーパーファミコンでの FF の最後なんですけど、世界観も5からこうガラッと変わってこの機械が導入されたりとかしてますので、自分も本当高校生かな当時遊んだ時結構衝撃でした。変わったっていう。
いやでもいいですよね、こういうなんかちょっとアーマー的な。機械を使って戦う的な、そうだ、コメントにあるスチームパンク。
そうですね、
スチームパンクの世界観ですね。素敵ですね。
はい、じゃあどんどん行きましょう。
Another scene, all these scenes so far from cutscenes, although this, I think, starts as a battle scene. This is, you get not that far in the first dungeon, you're in the caves of Narsh, looking to snuff out the rebel fighters, freedom fighters, if you will. And you see this Esper, and, well, in the original translation it was called an Esper. In other ones it was called an Eidolon. I wonder which one they're going to use for this. Esper, I think, is a bit cleaner. Eidolon's a bit wordy. But anyhow, these are monsters that you can equip and get stat boost from, as in other entries of the series. You don't have to be a summoner just to use these. But Terra has an affinity with this. And there's an electrical kind of mind meld reaction thing between the two, and then there's like an explosion. So spoiler if you haven't played the game, but that's sort of giving context here. Note you have the soft lighting in the background by the rocks, and you see the train tracks.
これモンスターなんですけど、これをね主人公今マナハンするティナがいろいろこう関わってくるんですけど、その辺はぜひね、もちろん知ってる方はいると思うんですけど、遊ぶ方は楽しみにしてほしい。
ネタバレなんで。
はい、ネタバレなんで。
ネタバレなんで。
はい、じゃあ続いて。
もう。
Again, more scenes early on in the game, the first cave, which is nice. Sometimes they do scenes towards the end of the game and some of the preview images, notably in Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster with the moon. But here we have the Mughals, one of which I think is Mog, who you can get as a hidden character later in your party. Optional character, I should say, not really hidden. And you are doing a kind of real-time / turn-based battle thing going on that later they would expand upon at the Condor Tower in Final Fantasy VII. So Locke, this rebel who's part of the group fighting against the Empire, finds Terra. What the hell was Rydia? That's from a different game. Finds her, and she's unconscious, and they kind of move her aside, and you got to do an army of Mughals with Locke to fight off the Empire soldiers and woolly mammoths and all kinds of stuff little bunnies, I think, all this stuff that comes and try to attack you. And at the end, you got to fight one of those on a mech. It's kind of your first like mini boss fight.
はい。でモーグリと相手してるのもこれも主人公の一人でロックっていう男のキャラクターですね。奥にはティナが倒れてたりとかします。はい。はい。
I like how the rocks in the cave look like they're glowing a little bit. It could just be how the screenshot looks, but it's a good touch.
ですね。モーグリのドットもすごいグラデーションが周り縁についてたりとか綺麗だなっていうのがわかります。
可愛いですね。サイズ感がだいぶデカめだけど。
それモーグリはキャラクターとして仲間にも実はなって します。
あ、そうなんだ、
はい、
戦ってくれるんですか。
そうですそうです。
へえ。
はい、そして続いて
キャッポーって。
この今真ん中にいるの
Ah, so later in the game, you kind of get a party proper with Tara and Edgar. It's kind of a womanizing guy with the ponytail, kind of royalty, right? He is. He's a prince or king, something like that. It's been a while. And there's Locke and Jarl and Chocobo's escaping. The castle's on fire. And there's Kefka. You can see the new upgraded flame effects from the Pixel Remaster in this screenshot. Also, you get some detail with the shadows. That's nice. This is always a fun little portion of the game. You get to Kefka ends up being the main bad guy, but he's kind of more silly, like some incarnations of Batman as the Joker had to have been influenced on this, as does the sort of a classic, like Italian sad clown opera thing going on.
ケフカ
あ、
ですね。
本当だ、ケフカだ。
ケフカを前にちょっとチョコボに乗ってる、
チョコボ乗ってますね。
はい、僕たちがいるんですけど、チョコボもちょっと頭身が上がってですね。
あ、確かに。なんか凛々しい。
そうですね。いろいろリアルではないんですけど、そのちょっとそれまでよりもデフォルメ感が緩和されてる感じはありますね。
確かに。尻尾のディティールがいいですね。
確かに。
うん。ふわふわして。
この辺もすごい書き直してるんだろうな。
ああ、そうなんですかね。
はい。そして続いて。
This is much later in the game. You get an airship. In some of these Final Fantasy games, you get an airship pretty early on, but in Final Fantasy VI, it takes its sweet time for you to get one. Setzer is the pilot of the airship, and you get another one later in the game. This, I believe, it looks like the first one, I think, based on the party members, but I could be mistaken on that. But you get to see his hair is lightened a bit, as is everyone's overall color palette. And that's pretty neat. And you get to see the detail on the airship. Nothing else is really jumping out. I like the purple in the skies. There's a nice bit of color contrast there. And you have Setzer looking kind of fishy. I mean, this game has the most, different facial expressions out of the Final Fantasy SNES games, 4, 5, and 6. So that's always fun to see, even if it's just in a screenshot. We don't see it moving, and it should be noted these screenshots might not be from final versions of the game. Although, since they're published in Famitsu, I would hope they're pretty close to the game coming out.
セッツァー。これ飛空艇のシーンですね。この4人も仲間なんですけど、FF6 はですね、仲間のキャラがとても多いんですよ。
そうなんだ。
群像劇みたいな感じのイメージで語られることがあるぐらいなので。
楽しみ。シドもいます、シド。
シドももちろん FF にはおなじみのね、シドがいるんですけど、結構ですね、今回役割また違うんです。
あ、そうなんだ。
6のシドは、いいですよ。
あ、そうなんですか。へえ。
いい絡み方をします。
へえ。それ以上はネタバレなんで。
それ以上はネタバレ。もう言わないから。もう言わない。はい。そして続いて。はい。
Nice. So this is from a battle scene. The first thing we've seen from a battle scene directly that's not a cutscene. And you have this is pretty early on in the game when you're trying to go up to get Sabin, who is Edgar's brother. You can see nice kind of sun and fog effects in the background there. In the foreground, you see the nice fire effects. All the special effects, I think, have been pretty playful in these Pixel remasters. It's one of the things they do best, including the changes to the music, of course, are quite good. And my Japanese is rusty. I cannot read what this says down there. And the fire is engulfing the enemies, so you can't really see them either. I recall there being like flowers and crows and a lot of those animal, maybe soldiers, a lot of those kind of enemies at this part of the game.
バトルシーンですけども、FF ってその途中までバックアタックって後ろから攻撃されるみたいな。
ありました。めっちゃ厄介なやつ。
先制攻撃される側ですね。されるんですけど、今回は逆に挟み撃ちっていう6があって。
あ、そうか、これ3人で真ん中のモンスターをやってるのか。
お互いから攻撃してるから有利になるっていうそういう仕組みがあります。はい。そして続いて、はい、爆裂剣。
Ah, there we go. So another battle scene, pretty early on. It shows you Sabin there, and you're in a desert somewhere. Not many deserts in the game, but you can see he's fighting animals like wolves and vultures, that sort of thing. Sabin is notable for you. As you level up, you unlock more of his special fighting moves, and he does kind of if you do Street Fighter kind of motions with the controller and the right button presses, he'll do a fireball, he'll do an uppercut, directly and obviously influenced by Street Fighter. At the bottom is Celis, and she becomes more important later in the story.
が FF それこそ今遊んでらっしゃる3とかだと、
ありますね。
ジョブごとになってるんですけど、これキャラクターごとに6はアビリティがあって、今戦ってるマッシュっていう格闘家は、格闘ゲームみたいにコマンド入力があるんですよ。
へえ、ゲーム内で。
そう。
すごい、めっちゃ進化してる。
コマンド入力をするとなんかいろんな技を出してくれるっていうのがある。
はあ。へえ、面白そう。
はい、続いてこれフィールドですね。
So this is a screenshot of the overworld that frankly doesn't look that great. It looks very pixelated and grainy. You kind of had this on the other games, but it might just be this particular picture, and it could be even transitioning from when you get off the airship to when you get on the airship, based on the airship that's there. This is from later in the game in the world of Ruin. I think the airship looks a little bit like a condom, but that's just me. They also redrew the overworld sprite of all the characters, I guess, but Celis, you can see more of her expression. She's not so tiny. The colors, there's more contrast. The colors pop out more. You have the white, you have the green shirt. A lot of the times the colors were changed to more resemble the Yoshitaka Amano concept art, but that's not always the case.
フィールドもだいぶリアルな、立体的な。
ずっと見下ろしだったのがちょっと斜め見下ろしというかクォーター感じになってまして、まあ BGM 変わりましたけど、これまさにフィールド曲で仲間を求めてという曲ですね。これもピクセルリマスター版のアレンジ版になってますね。なかなか
If you listen closely here, you can hear the overworld music in the Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster arrangement.
進化の具合が一気に変わる感じなんですよね。
そうですね。またミニマップに出てる大陸が広いですね。
確かに。
いや、どんどんスケールが大きくなってってるんだなっていうのを感じますね。
続いて、これ低い。
So a scene of the airship. This is the second airship taking off from that spot where it just landed, and this looks a bit better on the SNES Mode 7 mode that could do this kind of gimmicky 3D thing. As you're flying around, it looked really, really blocky. This looks better. I'm sure in motion this looks better than it does in this still image. But it's nice to see. And of course you got the map, which is something that was not in the original game. Or if it is, it wasn't as detailed.
地平線というかそういうのがちょっと見えるようになってて。
なるほど、確かになんか丸い感じがする。
球体になってるんですよね。
へえ。
はい。そして続いてこのフィールドですね。
Another overworld picture. This is right at the beginning of the game as you're leaving Narsh. Why they'd choose this picture, I don't know. Locke's hair, the color they're using him makes him look less cool and more older, in my opinion. It's still an improvement over what we had with the original Final Fantasy VI mobile and Steam ports, where they all look like little kids and it's kind of overdone. The Pixel Remaster is a correction on that in some respects. A lot of people might say, why not just release the original games and then have these other versions or something, which I think would have been a good choice. But we have what we got, and the new music in these Pixel Remasters is astounding. I hope that gets an official soundtrack release. I definitely get that. And the hold on. Yes. Okay. Gotta get going.